scene in general in Australia, but thrash is one of my favourite genres. I love the intensity. I can't not hear thrash and not want to bang my head. I think our thrash scene in particular is world class.
But I think it's also just because a lot of people love like fast music, and I think thrash is just riffs and pure awesome.
It's got the punk attitude, the punk mentality. The messages are true. The playing is true. And out of every other genre ever, thrash is grounded.
I've come home with many erect neck the next day from the thrash gig, and it's just so much fun.
Thrash metal makes you want to flood the pit with blood. Stay thrash!
What he said.
From Dave Dot, Australia, and you look on fucking all these thrash metal documentaries. I was watching one the other week, and it was like they were going through all different countries of, all where music comes from, and it's like Brazil, Sepultura, back in the day, and all that kind of shit. And then Mortal Sin was one. It was like, I think the guy was like, Australia? What?
Yeah, there's a lot of awesome bands that are hiding out down here. I don't think, unfortunately, a lot of the world is looking to Australia.
And I hate that, I hate being so far away that it's you're not relevant to anything.
But we've got a healthy little scene that fluctuates here in Australia. I just wish more record companies worldwide would take notice of what we have to deliver to the world, because I think we're up to world standard here with musicianship. It's a shame we're a bit behind.
And this day and age, right now, 2017, we've flipped that. We're not the underdog anymore. It's like, holy fuck.
There's some talent here. If you put them on a tour with the likes of Evil or Havoc or any of the older, bigger bands and give them a chance, they would be able to compete and be as revered as those overseas acts, no doubt.
I'm a bit of a local history nerd as well as a musician, so it was fascinating to learn that while the Bay Area and Teutonic scenes were going on, Australia had its own thrash contingent in the 1980s. The thrash scene was Australia's first wave of extreme metal.
Sometimes it's kind of overwhelming when I sit back and I'm talking to the youngest generation in the metal scene now, and I tell them stories of what we got up to at their age, and it's there's a respect there. And they're really interested in, wow, that's what you guys got up to.
I've been waiting for someone to do something about Australian thrash metal. If we don't archive our stuff in this country, Tom Warrior from Sheldon Frost brings out a book, Hellhammer, the early years. It's this deck, it's got 500 photos of them, a band practicing. They bring out a Bay Area photo scene. It's got all these photos from. Then you look back at the old 80s Australian scene, it's most of the photos of headbangers on train stations with SLAGHTER beer.
Well, look, I had big brothers, 3 big brothers, who were all into some pretty heavy stuff. They all listened to Sabbath and Zeppelin, and what probably got me wanting to be a singer was hearing the first Queen album. I just heard Freddie Mercury and just went, fuck, wow. That's what heavy metal was back in before 1980. There was all of that sort of stuff, and then came the new wave of British heavy metal, which was from about 1980 through to 1985.
A lot of our background, we had a strong interest in punk. With us all the way back to the Ramones and the Sex Pistols, or, up through the Damned, even through, the Exploited, I suppose, in the early 80s. Just love that stuff, love that punk stuff. It's always just so pure.
For me, it was Kiss in the 70s. And then Iron Maiden and Priest, and it was all over. As soon as I heard Maiden and Priest, I knew then that I wanted to be in a band. 85, 86, when thrash really sort of took hold for us. Again, that was another sort of musical reawakening, I guess. Yeah.
It was probably, we're all massive Motorhead and Venom fans, obviously, and we're really into Frost and, all the early kind of German stuff, early Creator and all that.
Thrash metal, man, it was the 80s, it was all about the Germans. Oh, Slayer,
My first gig I ever seen in my life, I was 10 years old. I seen a band called Buffalo open up Flemington Markets down here, and ran away from home and went to see Buffalo play, and I said I want to do that. I want to be on stage like those blokes.
There were some really good bands around, and a lot of it reflected what was going on internationally. The bands were very Sabbath orientated or Zeppelin. There were those influences that were around at the day, I suppose. A lot of heavy rock into heavy metal. You're transitioning out of your established 70s sort of bands like Sabbath, Zeppelin, and you're going into that new wave of British heavy metal. And for all of that, the punk scene was right there in the background as well.
4 punks and a Scotch and Coke! No ice!
From the old days from Melbourne was Renegade. I still fucking listen to their stuff to this day.
I don't know if they were the first Melbourne thrash band, but they were definitely the first Melbourne thrash band that really captured what they were trying to do and went a fair way.
Renegade are one of the pioneers of not only Melbourne thrash but Australian thrash in general. They go back as far as 1982, well before I was a part of the metal scene.
It formed roughly around 1981, 1982. Started off as like your typical garage band, you know what I mean? And we were probably heading nowhere fast with what we were doing. We were just experimenting with the music that was around at the day, which is, your sort of heavy metal of the 70s. Yeah, when we started, we found ourselves kind of caught between different musical genres. We weren't metal because we were a bit too fast, and we weren't punk because we weren't punk enough. So yeah, it was pretty different at the time.
So you got the number one. Let's go. That massive like blood. Bring it down. That grits. That magic to your knees. Get down.
They were accepted. The music was accepted like anything else at that stage. It was just a new genre. Obviously, a lot of customers of mine didn't like them, or a lot of fans didn't. A lot did. Same with any genre, you're going to get that with anything, really.
Our first gigs were in the punk scene, and I remember a lot of looks of confusion out there. The punks sort of trying to figure out what the hell we were. The first metal gigs, I don't think were received very well at all. We'd usually be the first act up. People standing right back against the wall, trying to keep as far away from the stage as possible. I can still hear people yelling out, get off, get off. So, yeah, it was great.
I could imagine that Renegade weren't that well received at first by the local Australian audiences because they were a lot heavier and a lot faster than other bands on the local circuit. But I believe that all changed around 1983-84 when bands like Nothing Sacred and TIMNEY entered the scene.
I think initially there was a lot of the Melbourne bands like Nothing Sacred was one of the first bands that started kind of pushing that stuff, and then maybe bands like TIMNEY and Renegade came through.
Nothing Sacred, yeah. We probably kicked off 82, 83, like a lot of bands, just starting off in someone's garage. Got the first lineup together that we were really happy with, so we started playing as fast as we could, as hard as we could, as often as we could. I don't think we were thrash. We were fast, especially live. Everything went at 100 miles an hour when we played live. So I think that's where we got our reputation for being thrashish.
earlier thrash bands here in Melbourne. They were fronted by Peter Holtz. They didn't really start out as a thrash band per se, but developed that thrash sound over time. They quickly became a favourite among metalheads here in Melbourne.
Probably met him with TIREST, of course. We did gigs with TIREST, Nothing Sacred, and the band just hit it off with him, pretty simple. Yeah, Peter's a nice bloke.
We're all in the scene, so if you're in Melbourne in the early mid-80s, you couldn't not know Peter and TIREST, and everyone knew about it.
There was Peter Hobbs, Chris Phillips on drums, Alex on guitar, and Dave Rue, who was their bass player, who did a band called Rampage. And then Chris Phillips, the drummer, he went on to do Mass Confusion.
Massive Confusion with Phil Venom on bass, and just a great bunch of blokes, and they were just crazy. They were their own thing.
Mass Confusion were a thrash band here in Melbourne. They had a pretty unique sort of sound, playing some pretty offbeat stuff. They were a fun band to go and see, and often came on stage wearing some pretty outrageous costumes. They'd take the piss out of literally everything, but back then people weren't so offended by everything.
Me and Slob, the guitarist, we're high school mates, so we've been going to gigs together since 1980. Just mates going to heavy metal shows, in town. I actually had to go over to England to work for a year, and obviously we stayed in touch, and over that time we decided, we should start a band, so we thought this would be grouse. So when I came back, we all went out and bought guitars on the same day and that from the same shop. We actually didn't start playing guitar till we were 20. And just started working out how to play riffs like the Rods and those bands, just real basic stuff. Being headbangs, we loved all metal and all that, but we just weren't into the tough evil thing, and we didn't set out to be particularly common, just moved in that direction. We definitely remember seeing some photo of bands like Exodus and was it Metallica probably, standing in the street, legs all spread apart with big bloody basketball boot things, sort of standing in the street looking tough and that. And we just used to laugh at it. To us it was corny. And then of course we went a bit stupid with it. Just thought it'd be funny to write stupid songs. But we took the music very seriously. We actually spent a hell of a lot of time on it, trying to be sort of moving more of an original, just doing our own thing. So we'd either do a funny spin or a humorous spin on traditional metal topics. Like we had a song called The Mangler, just funny lines about killing people. And Culinary Chaos was a song that was about a self-harming chef. Slayer used to have that Die by the Sword. We made a song Die by the Ward, which is about a sinister surgeon. And Calisthenics about exercise, things that you drop the dumbbells on your head and all the rest of it. Bowground or about farting and pooing and everything of the anal arts. Humour was just a common thing. We just all mucked around so much that it just seemed normal to just keep the band in that vein. It wasn't overthought.
This song's called Shutterbug. It's dedicated to that man there with the video, walking around, taking pictures like a pervert.
So we had that punky vibe too in the music, because there was a lot of hardcore around at the time too. The hardcore crossover scene, it was just more, people were just a bit more normal in Australia. Our band wasn't actually strictly just playing with, we played with punk bands as well, like the Hard-Ons and Mark of Cain and Gash and bands like that. So there was a real crossover there, but we liked the way the punk bands would just do it yourself, and they were just normal people. There was no pretense really to it. The punk vibe was you could just do anything. We were just locals making up some riffs and stuff.
go. So No Remorse was a band that I started with my two cousins, Merm and Jez Sorzio. Grew up on metal. We grew up on a stable diet of Sabbath and Kiss. Started out playing classic fucking traditional and heavy metal, and grew into stuff like Metallica. Slade came about. The taste got heavier for some of us. Some of us were still stuck in the traditional metal, so the rebranding of Persecution was basically No Remorse turning from a traditional heavy metal band to a thrash metal band, losing the clone vocals and going with Jez doing the thrash metal thing. We were the young kids on the block, and for us, we were lucky that Renegade was already forming a path in Melbourne for the genre music. We found a partner band that was doing a similar style to us, so I think the Australian metal scene was a lot more prepared for Persecution when we were about, because of the pioneering of Renegade. So whereas they might have had a bit of resistance with their early shows, we were welcomed with open arms because they'd already cleared the way for us.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think pre-internet things took a while to filter through. So although certain people were getting, Slayer albums and Venom stuff when it first came out, there wasn't a really huge movement for it. So I think some of the older guys didn't kind of sort of latch on to the new stuff that was happening, but most of the younger people seemed to really latch on to the new, faster sort of stuff that was happening. But obviously, it took a lot longer for bands to kind of bring it through.
I think people got used to the fact that, okay, they're a fast band, but they started to probably give us a little bit more credit that we were actually trying to introduce some kind of a new style.
But by saying that, I think Australia had a really good scene because of it. I think the later 80s stuff out of Australia was much better than the mid to late 80s stuff coming out of America, in my opinion. Melbourne was a great place to play. When we played in the 80s, we were definitely pulling 400s. It wasn't terribly uncommon. And it wasn't just us, there were lots of bands that were doing the same kind of thing. You'd have that mix of bands, different genres, all playing the same gig on the same night. 200-300 people was not an uncommon crowd. It was pretty good back then.
We played at a Central Club venue in Richmond. We played one of the very first nights that they'd installed this sound meter. It had green down the bottom, yellow, and then red. And basically it was around the noise complaints that they'd been getting from the local neighbours. It had to stay in the red for, I don't know, it was like 5 seconds or something like that, I think. And that would then switch off the power to the stage. So anyway, we opened up with the very first song, and 5 seconds in, power went. And we're like, so shit. Anyway, so then they flicked the switch, and so we tuned down a little bit, bang into it again, and bang, the power went out. Probably the volume was just Dave's drums, just the acoustic. I mean, he hit the friggin' thing so hard. Venues was always a challenge, finding venues that would be welcome to having metal bands there, because we sort of had some preconceived ideas of what metal fans were like. But, probably the nicest bunch of people in the world, from my experience.
It was brethren. It was our clan. It was very unfashionable to be a metalhead in the 80s. People throw rocks at you down the street. If you saw a guy in a battle jacket getting beaten up, you've never met him, you jump in there tooth and nail.
Yeah, the vibe back in those days, it was a big community. You'd run into guys outside at gigs, they had the metal shirt on, and you notice them, hey, how you doing? And you go up and you chat with them. It was very friendly.
The ritual is Central Station Records, which became Metal for Melbourne, outside Flinders Street. You couldn't get more central in Victoria than Flinders Street Station. Every Friday night, every Saturday, you would have hundreds of people gather on what we call the steps, very legendary in Melbourne, and drink, listen to music, and then there's a gig on. Where are we going? And you would have a tribe of 300 or 400 people all marching down the street deciding we're going to this gig tonight. Everyone knew what was going on. It was community.
Metal for Melbourne, where you'll discover the hottest heavy metal music available, the latest from overseas, and also the latest local heavy metal recordings.
Metal for Melbourne was a record shop. I started it, first I got a job with Gist Records in 1979, late 79 I started there. 1980, my boss then, Joe Colombo, started getting dance music in from overseas. It got big so quick, left me to my own devices, and I asked him, you got your music upstairs, because he moved out of the shop and got another shop. And I said, can I do my favourite? He goes, if it's going to work, do it. So it started from there with Central Station Rock, then Central Station Heavy Metal, then around about 87 we changed it to Metal for Melbourne after the gigs got put on.
And it was kind of a central hub for everybody who wanted to know about metal, because at the time, if you think of it, there were very few music shows that would promote metal. You had Countdown and things like that, but they were all about pop, and they'd go to great lengths to exclude anything that was metal. So the people who were into metal at the time really had to seek it out.
They were our heavy metal drug dealers. We'd wag school and get on the train and go and see Greta on the Wednesday morning and get our fix of heavy metal.
And this small shop just was jam-packed full of everything that you could want. Had albums, singles, demos from local and international bands.
I remember the first recordings I ever did. The most important thing was to get your demo tape at, Metal for Melbourne.
We used to sell them for what bands wanted, as in like, we didn't take a cut, we just gave all the money to the bands.
It became the meeting place for a lot of us. You could go into the city on a Friday or a Saturday night, meet up with other fellow metalheads and find out who was playing, where they were playing. You could meet them up at the shop.
I can remember some band members coming into the shop and being asked for autographs and all that. I mean, it's they come into the shop and it's like, oh my God, look who's that? Who that is? Oh, it's Nothing Sacred. Oh, and whatever. So, yeah, it was excellent.
It went from Central Station to Metal for Melbourne Records, and part of that was Greta doing your Metal for Melbourne shows. To me, it was kind of like a festival thing. It was outside of the pubs, it was usually halls. It was the best bands around, there's a fair few of them. It was really heavily promoted, and it was a lot more people. You got people out of the suburbs that didn't go to the normal gigs.
The first one was in 1981 at Crystal's Rock in Paran, from memory. We had one in 82, 83, missed 84. So we had 84, 85 and 86. And each one kept doubling in the amount of people. And they were big, too big.
It was the grand final in this country. The best of the best bands played there. And without Greta's hard work and there would be no persecution. There'd be no Taramis, there'd be nothing sacreds. Honestly, they call her the Queen of Metal, and no one else is entitled to that title. And I'm not limited to Greta. There's a big team that was behind that. Without their influences, Australian heavy metal would never be what it is today.
sudden, you know, there was bands, you know, coming out of Adelaide, out of New South Wales. Yeah, it's really hard to say how it gathered that momentum, but it sort of quickly did, almost like a bit of a tidal wave. And it was a great time in the metal scene because you still had your new wave of British heavy metal style bands, and you had thrash as well. It was awesome, yeah, just fantastic.
Our scene really wasn't well known internationally as such, so we were like a little blip on the radar. I mean, I'm glad nowadays we live in a country where we get tours. Back then we didn't. And that was also a thing that sort of helped that local scene thrive, because we didn't get the tours of those bands. We got our local bands, so at least we're getting our thrash. And that was the other reason why a lot of those bands were very successful on a local level, because we weren't getting the big bands coming out, so we got our boys.
So I was only young, like I went and saw Metal from Melbourne in 1986 when I was 16. So that was amazing to me. It was kind of that period when things really started turning. Bands like TIMNEY, you know, which then sort of eventually kind of went on to be sort of Hobbs Angel of Death. And Mortal Sin started out in Sydney in 87, I think their first album was. So that was kind of the turn when things started happening.